You probably know rosemary as the tough little herb beside a roast. But for centuries, people believed this familiar plant carried something far more valuable, the power of remembrance. Could rosemary genuinely help an aging memory? Or is that belief simply a beautiful story passed down through generations? The honest answer is more surprising and more cautious than most headlines suggest. Stay to the end, and you'll learn where rosemary's reputation began, what researchers found in older adults, how to use it sensibly, and how to grow it at home. This is rosemary, the fragrant evergreen whose story has traveled from rocky Mediterranean hillsides to poetry, laboratories, kitchens, and gardens around the world. Rosemary's story begins along the Mediterranean coast, where intense sunlight, rocky ground, salty air, and long dry summers challenge almost everything that grows there. Those demanding conditions shaped a woody shrub with narrow, leathery leaves that conserve moisture and hold their fragrance when the surrounding landscape becomes hot and dry. Its old name, Rosmarinus, is commonly interpreted as dew of the sea, an unforgettable image of fragrant plants blooming on dry hills above blue coastal water. Gently crush one leaf, and aromatic compounds are released into the air. That sharp, resinous fragrance is one reason rosemary has remained so memorable across cultures. In ancient Greek tradition, students were said to wear rosemary while studying. The story reveals how early this plant became associated with attention, learning, and memory. Whether every detail of that custom is historically exact is less important than the idea that survived. Rosemary became a plant people reached for when they wanted to remember. Centuries later, Shakespeare gave that connection one of its most famous expressions. In Hamlet, Ophelia offers rosemary and identifies it with remembrance. By then, rosemary was more than a seasoning. It had become a symbol used when people feared that a person, a promise, or an important moment might be forgotten. Yet the same plant remained an ordinary household companion, flavoring bread, beans, vegetables, fish, and roasted meat. Rosemary lived simultaneously in poetry and in the pantry. Look closely and rosemary is easy to recognize: woody stems, narrow needle-like leaves, and small flowers that may appear pale blue, violet, pink, or white. Rosemary belongs to the mint family, alongside basil, thyme, sage, and mint. Its current accepted scientific name is Salvia rosmarinus. Older books usually call it Rosmarinus officinalis. The plant did not suddenly change. Scientists simply moved it to a different address on the botanical family tree. But a powerful story is not the same thing as scientific proof. To understand rosemary honestly, we must keep tradition, laboratory findings, and human evidence separate. European regulators recognize rosemary leaf in traditional preparations for the symptomatic relief of digestive discomfort and mild spasmodic disorders of the gastrointestinal tract. Traditional rosemary preparations have also been used externally or in baths for minor muscle and joint discomfort and minor peripheral circulation complaints. The phrase traditional use is crucial. It means long-standing use makes the effect plausible, but sufficient clinical trial evidence is still lacking. History begins the question, it does not settle it. One small human experiment asked a particularly relevant question: could dried rosemary influence cognitive performance in healthy older adults? 28 participants, with an average age of about 75, received a placebo and different amounts of rosemary on separate testing days. Researchers measured attention and several aspects of memory 1, 2.5, 4, and 6 hours after each treatment. The amounts tested were 750, 1500, 3000, and 6,000 milligrams. This range allowed researchers to see whether more produced better results. The lowest amount, 750 milligrams, produced a statistically significant improvement in one measurement called speed of memory when compared with placebo. But the highest amount, 6,000 milligrams, impaired that same measurement. The study did not deliver the simple message that rosemary always improves memory. The most useful lesson may be the least glamorous one: more is not necessarily better. A plant can contain active compounds without becoming safer at higher amounts. These milligram figures belong to a controlled experiment. They are not dosage instructions and should not be copied at home from a YouTube video. The experiment included only 28 people and observed short-term effects following single doses. Small studies can provide clues, but they cannot give final answers. Most importantly, the study did not demonstrate that rosemary prevents dementia, treats Alzheimer's disease, or reverses ongoing memory decline. Researchers have also examined rosemary aroma. In one laboratory study, volunteers performed cognitive tasks after exposure to rosemary's scent. A rosemary compound called 1,8-cineol was measured in the blood. Higher levels were associated with better performance on certain speed and accuracy tasks. That association is intriguing, but it does not prove that smelling rosemary protects the brain or prevents age-related cognitive decline. Association and treatment are not the same. The honest verdict is modest: rosemary has a remarkable connection with remembrance, and early research justifies further study. It remains promising, not proven. If you enjoy rosemary, its simplest and best established role remains food. A modest culinary amount can add fragrance and flavor without turning dinner into a medical experiment. Fresh rosemary has softer leaves and a brighter aroma. Dried rosemary tastes more concentrated, so begin with less, taste the dish, and add more only if needed. To prepare a fresh sprig, hold the tip and pull your fingers gently down the stem. Gather the leaves, then chop them finely so their texture is less noticeable. For roasted vegetables, combine finely chopped rosemary with carrots, potatoes, onions, or squash and a little olive oil. The immediate benefit is honest, deeper aroma and richer flavor. Another easy option is adding one small sprig to beans, lentils, soup, or tomato sauce while it simmers. Remove the woody stem before serving. Rosemary also pairs naturally with bread, fish, chicken, lemon, garlic, and olive oil. You do not need a complicated remedy to make this plant useful. Because mature rosemary stems become hard and woody, use the tender leaves for eating and remove whole stems before placing food on the table. Rosemary tea has a long traditional history, but medicinal tea is different from ordinary seasoning. Avoid inventing an extremely strong brew because stronger does not automatically mean better. If you choose rosemary tea, follow the directions on a reputable packaged product. Ask a healthcare professional before regular medicinal use if you have health conditions. Rosemary essential oil is not the same as rosemary leaf. A tiny bottle contains a highly concentrated product and should not be treated like an ordinary cup of tea. Do not swallow rosemary essential oil as a homemade remedy. Use any concentrated oil only according to an appropriate product label and keep it away from children. Rosemary products may cause sensitivity reactions, including contact dermatitis. Stop using the product if you develop itching, redness, swelling, breathing difficulty, or another unexpected reaction. Medicinal rosemary leaf preparations are not recommended during pregnancy or breastfeeding, or for people with bile duct obstruction, gallbladder inflammation, gallstones, or liver disease. These warnings concern medicinal or concentrated preparations, not the small amount of rosemary normally used to season an ordinary meal. Form and amount both matter. European regulators reported no medicine interactions described in the literature they assessed. But absence of a known interaction is not a guarantee for every product or person. If you take several prescriptions, show your pharmacist the exact tea, extract, oil, or supplement you plan to use. Different products can contain very different concentrations. And if memory changes are new, worsening, or affecting daily life, do not rely on rosemary. Arrange a medical evaluation because many causes of memory problems deserve attention. If you want the living plant, begin at a nursery or garden center. Choose a culinary rosemary with healthy green growth and soil that is not waterlogged. The label may say Salvia rosmarinus or the older name Rosmarinus officinalis. Both names can refer to the culinary rosemary discussed in this video. Confirm the basic clues: woody stems, narrow leathery leaves, a darker green upper surface, a paler underside, and a strong resinous aroma when gently rubbed. Do not gather a rosemary-like plant from the wild unless a knowledgeable local expert has identified it. Similar-looking plants are not automatically safe to eat. To grow rosemary successfully, imitate its Mediterranean home. Give it at least 6 hours of direct sunlight each day and plenty of moving air. Rosemary prefers light, fast-draining soil. It tolerates dryness much better than constantly wet roots, which can weaken or kill the plant. For a container, choose a pot with a genuine drainage hole and a loose potting mix. Never leave the pot standing in a saucer filled with water. Water thoroughly, allow the excess to drain, then wait until the upper soil begins to dry before watering again. Do not water automatically by the calendar. Harvest a few young tips at a time, cutting just above a leafy junction so the plant can branch. Avoid removing most of its foliage in one harvest. Starting rosemary from seed can be slow. A stem cutting is often easier. Take a healthy non-flowering tip and remove the leaves from its lower section. Place the bare section in a light, moist growing medium. Keep it bright but away from harsh midday sun while new roots begin to develop. In cold winter regions, grow rosemary in a container and move it to a bright, protected place before a hard freeze damages the plant. Rosemary is worth remembering in 3 ways: as a plant with a beautiful history, a useful culinary herb, and a subject whose medical evidence remains limited. If rosemary already grows in your garden, tell us how you use it. And subscribe to Plant Lore After 60 for another carefully researched story hidden inside a familiar